This is Conklin Company with 13 ABC's Lee Conklin. And later, Jeff Smith in touch. Now, here's Lee Conklin.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome into another edition of Conklin Company. Today on the program, Jeff Smith in touch today on a different form of training for your teen as they get prepared to get behind the wheel. We'll salute one of the hardest working men in Toledo sportscasting. A voice around these parts, walleye Mudhen fans know him well, Matt Melzak on the balancing act that is calling hockey and baseball at this time of the year. But first, protecting our lake, the Lake Erie watershed. In the news of late, that larvae of grass carp, one type of species of the invasive Asian carp, been found in the Maumee. All right, so what's the significance behind this? What can be done to stop the ongoing threat to the Great Lakes? Dr. Christine Mayer, professor, UT Department of Environmental Sciences at the Lake Erie Center, and Nicole King, aquatic research technician at the Lake Erie Center, join us now with a special guest. I can say for the first time on Conklin Company, we've never had a fish, albeit a dead fish. It is a grass carp, correct?
That is correct. It is a grass carp.
Yeah, okay, and which have already, correct me if I'm wrong here, ladies, that have already been found in Lake Erie, correct? The grass carp.
Yes, they are present in Lake Erie.
Okay, and Christine, first tell us about the significance, if the fish is already in Lake Erie, significance of finding larvae in the Lake Erie watershed, in the Maumee River. And then we'll let Nicole get into this since she's hands-on in the river herself, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, significance behind it.
So grass carp are a fish that you can purchase in Ohio. But people buy them to stock into ponds because they control weeds. But that's legal in Ohio, but the fish that you can purchase are treated so that they cannot reproduce. They're sterile. So even if a grass carp escaped and got into the lake, it should not be able to reproduce. However, we've discovered that these fish are reproducing in the lake. So we've found eggs of fertilized, developing eggs that are turning into an embryo and getting ready to hatch. We've found those in the Sandusky and the Maumee River. And we've then found a larval version, which is a just hatched baby fish in the Maumee River.
And Nicole, you found your research, your work, your efforts, you found the larvae, what, last year sometime?
Yeah, summer of 2018 it was collected, and then we discovered it in our samples at the beginning of this year.
All right, and obviously, we have a full-grown dead grass carp here. Why is the grass carp so invasive to Lake Erie, for instance, if it were to multiply in great numbers? What's the significance behind it?
Well, the concern is that they eat plants. That's why people, have them in their ponds, because they clear out. They clean it out. But we don't want our wetlands cleaned out of plants, because that's, what's food to a grass carp is habitat to our native fish.
Okay, and to be clear, there are 4 species of Asian carp, right?
Yeah.
So, tend to think of the grass carp. Okay, it eats the plants. It doesn't eat plankton. Is that correct?
It does not.
No.
Okay, and that's the big head carp and the silver carp.
Yes.
Is that
Correct.
Okay, Nicole, give us a lesson in the difference here, and the difference, the harm that each fish can do to the Great Lakes.
Right. So the big head and the silver carp are the ones that eat plankton. So everyone is really nervous about those getting into the lake, because that is basically going to cut off the bottom of the food chain. That's plankton are food for just about every fish out there at some point in their lives. So the silver carp is the only one that jumps. So that's a whole other issue that it's going to.
And we've seen video for years.
Everyone's seen videos.
Right?
Yes.
Boating
so
hazard.
These grass carp do not jump like the silver carp.
Don't want to alarm folks that,
Yes.
this is not it. So, as invasive as this fish is, not quite as invasive as the silver carp. Is that correct? Or you don't like to rank them in terms of damage they can do?
Totally different issue.
Apples and oranges.
Yeah.
Wetlands, and then eating the fish themselves, right? Or
competing for native fish for their food.
Okay, not eating the fish.
Yeah.
2 scientists, not a science guy here. So as you can tell here, so in your research then, what can be done to prevent the grass carp from multiplying in the watershed, from keeping it from getting into the lake itself? What can be done?
So We don't have numbers right now, but we know that there are several grass carp in Lake Erie that are reproducing. Just because they're reproducing doesn't necessarily mean that those eggs are going to turn into adults.
Okay.
That's something that we're looking at right now. How often these fish are spawning and how often they might be, developing into larvae, juveniles, and then adults. We don't know that yet. As far as preventing them from getting into the lake, if you purchase one in Ohio, even though it's sterile, please do not release it into the lake. ODNR, Ohio Department of Natural Resources, has also done a really great job in blocking off potential entrances for these fish during flooding events. Sometimes the Mississippi River watershed and the Great Lakes watershed do meet, so they've been working on blocking off those entrances.
Okay, and it takes a while to turn the research around, and that's where Christy, you come in here, right?
The other thing that is ongoing that is going to be an even increased effort this year is we are working with the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and people, biologists in Michigan, and with the Fish and Wildlife Service. We have crews going out to try to fish grass carp out of the lake. So not only just trying to catch as many as they can and remove them, but to look at that carefully and figure out what's the best way to catch these fish. They're hard to catch. They're fish. They can swim away easily from nets and things like that. So that is actively being worked on as research on how to best fish for these fish, where they are in the lake, where they can be removed most efficiently.
Do you believe that most of the grass carp that have been found in the lake have been deposited there, like you said?
We don't know.
You don't know?
We don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
And going forward here, so you make this discovery in the Maumee last year. You turn it around in the lab, or your researchers, is that correct? Or you both go back to the lab, and it takes how long before you can confirm this is the larvae of an Asian carp?
It really depends. I can't give you an exact time.
Okay.
So, we're out there on the lake towing our nets around, collecting these samples. Those get preserved in alcohol, and then they go back in the lab. But since we are so active out, on the boat and on the river during the summer, we might not even touch those samples. So once we have time, again, those samples are then, poured in a tray. We sort through picking the fish and the eggs out because there's all kind of other debris in there. And then those fish have to go under the microscope, and we identify them down to,
You do your work,
genus,
right?
species.
It takes a long time, and it takes a lot of work hours to do that.
But in the end, it seems like it's a labor of love for you because you are about protecting our wetlands, our fishing industry. What, we have a $7 billion fishing industry, right, in the Great Lakes here.
Yeah, and like the grass carp is not the threat. The silver carp or bighead are to the native fish because they don't compete with the fish for food, but they do potentially could impact the habitats that certain species live in.
All right, and so going forward here, in terms of the threat, well, you know what? We're going to have to save that for another day, but I appreciate your time and all the work that you do in this research, because it's easy, I get it here. And we thank once again Nicole King and Christine Mayer.
Thank you.
Back on Conklin Co. right after this.